and bury it under fear, meetings, permissions, tension, grant language, and second guessing. Do something. I also kept August 27th, 2026 as the release day reference rather than speaking as though the recording is being made today. Day 2. Do it before you forget. A short thought turned into a practice, released August 27th, 2026, 4:44 a.m. There is a particular moment when an idea is still alive. It has just arrived. It is clear enough to recognize there is energy behind it, and for a brief period of time, one can still see what to do. Then something happens. One thinks and thinks and thinks some more. The idea gets examined, improved, questioned, delayed, discussed, defended, explained, and eventually, sometimes, forgotten. Or worse, remembered as something one was going to do. So this practice begins with a simple instruction. Do it before you forget. Not perfectly, not after the entire system has been designed, not after everybody agrees, not after every fear has been answered. Do something while the thought is still connected to the energy that created it. That does not mean acting recklessly. It means recognizing the difference between taking action and waiting for permission from the voice inside my head. Because the VMH can be very convincing. It can sound like wisdom. It can sound like caution. It can sound like responsibility. Sometimes it is simply an old voice wearing a new hat. And one has learned something about action. One has a scheduled video posting practice. The practice was learned from watching John Crestani and his method of rebranding and repurposing videos. One tried it with the 12-Step Online Money YouTube channel. It didn't work. At least, it did not work in the way one originally intended. But something else happened. One learned how to create videos. One learned how to post them. One became adept at the process. So perhaps the original goal failed, but the practice succeeded. And now there is a scheduled posting system. Videos released at 4:44 a.m. again and again. Not because every video has to become an immediate success, but because repetition teaches the hands what the mind cannot learn merely by thinking. Create, upload, post, repeat. Sometimes the result of doing something is not the result one expected. Sometimes the result is that one becomes the kind of person who knows how to do it. That matters. Because on Tuesday, August 25th, 2026, day 0 of this 21-day quest, something else happened. The grant check from the neighbor was returned and deposited. A movement of money completed. Something that had been waiting moved. The check came back. The check was deposited. Day 0. A small event, perhaps, but also a reminder. Money moves. It arrives through different doors, and one does not always know which door will open next. That thought leads back to Clean House Inc. and the tension around how money is supposed to come. Apply for grants. Ask for grants. Search for grants. Wait for grants. There is nothing inherently wrong with grants. Grants are one possible channel, but one has another way of moving. Martin Luther Cartwright's way. Ask for funds. Write the ad copy. Create the landing pages. Send the book. Tell the story. Learn the names and memorize sober houses across the country. Build connections. Let people see what exists. Let them decide whether they believe in it. And if they believe in it, let them participate. This is different from waiting for an institution to approve the work before the work is allowed to breathe. And somewhere along the way, something became clear. There was pressure, stress. The creation of Backyard Vegan became connected to trickery, fear, permissions, expectations, and anxiety about whether things would work. There was the work of getting permission to use logos on flyers from the caterers. There was tension with the missus. There were disagreements and different ideas about what should happen. And beneath some of it was an old pattern. Fear of losing. Fear of lack. Fear that resources are limited. Fear that if money does not arrive through the expected channel, then perhaps it will not arrive at all. One recognizes that voice. Sometimes the VMH even sounds like an old boss. Ron's voice. Not necessarily Ron standing in the room, but the memory of a way of thinking. A fear-based way of thinking that can continue talking long after the person is gone. A limited mindset can become a tenant in the mind. It keeps paying rent with anxiety. It says, don't let go. Don't trust another method. Don't change the flow. There won't be enough. But Clean House Inc. has been here since 2010. And when funds have been low, a good portion of the money keeping things moving has come from one driving Uber. That is also part of the story. Martin Luther Cartwright is a driver. That is not an embarrassment. That is part of the economic history of how things have continued. And perhaps there is another realization underneath all of this. One does not meddle in food businesses. One does not meddle in art businesses. The food and the art can have their own intelligence, their own creators, their own movement. One can support, one can connect, one can build a platform. One can create the copy, the pages, the videos, and the invitations. But one does not have to control every expression of every mission. That realization changes the tension, because perhaps the question is not, how do I get everybody to do this my way? Perhaps the question is, how do I stop blocking the flow? If someone believes in grants, let them pursue grants. If a grant is available and appropriate, apply for it. But one does not have to stand in the middle of the river and become the dam. Another person may believe in giving because they have actually seen the work. They know what happens there. They know the 12-step meetings. They know the martial arts. They know the yoga. They know the sober living for men. They have seen the organization. They know what it does. That kind of money may come differently, not because a grant application won a competition, but because somebody saw something and said, I want to support that. Both flows can exist. One does not have to cancel the other. That is part of the turnover. Turn over the control, turn over the fear, turn over the need to make every dollar arrive through the same door. And perhaps that is what detachment looks like in practice. Not doing nothing, but doing what belongs to one and then moving out of the way. There are still questions about the mission. Old voices still appear. The old boss in the head may want to change things. There may be pressure to expand the mission statement to include women, but that was not necessarily the original intention. And the memory of founder David Smeltz remains part of the compass. The concern was that changing the focus could become a distraction from recovery, not because women do not matter, not because their recovery does not matter, but because an organization can lose its direction by trying to become everything for everyone. A mission requires boundaries, a purpose requires a center, and sometimes staying focused is not exclusion. Sometimes staying focused is how a promise is kept. So the work continues, the videos continue. 4:44 a.m. create, upload, post, repeat. The thought arrives, do it before you forget. The landing page idea arrives, do something. The ad copy arrives, write it. The book needs to be sent, send it. A name appears, learn it. A sober house comes to mind, find it, memorize it. A connection becomes possible. Make the connection. An opportunity appears. Don't spend 3 weeks asking the VMH whether it is safe to take the first reasonable step. Take the step. The VIMH will probably have something to say. Let it talk. Then create the video anyway. The old voices may remember failure. The practice remembers repetition. The old voices may remember what didn't work. The practice remembers what was learned. The old voices may fear losing money. The practice remembers that money has moved before. The old voices may insist there is only one way. The practice looks for another door. And somewhere in that movement, the picture continues. The Motorola stylus, the home screen, the folder, the PNC application, the available balance, over $17,000. The visualization becoming clearer with repetition. And then backyardvegan.org. Not forced, not chased into existence through panic, but built, published, connected. Allowed to be seen, allowed to attract, allowed to become one of several doors through which value, people, opportunity, and money can move. One does not have to know the entire route. One only has to recognize the next action before forgetting it. So this is day 2, a short thought turned into a practice. Do it before you forget. And now stop listening for a moment. Pick up the 108 Malaguru beads. Begin the 21-day manifestation practice. Return to the visualization. Let the picture appear as it appears. Do not force it to remain the same. The VMH may evolve. The visualization may evolve. The details may become clearer. Move from bead to bead. Practice the intention. Practice the action. Practice the detachment. And when one reaches the end, do not chase the result. Let it go. It is done. I am. Thank you.
All right, Cat, I'm ready.